I'm here in graceful Brisbane, and I respect and honour the Yagara and Turrbal people, the traditional owners of this land, past, present, and future. With this digital story, I also acknowledge the stories, traditions, and living cultures of the First Nations people. I'm the group leader at Pamphlet Tennyson Sea Scouts. We do a lot of sailing and canoeing here, and at the start of every meeting, we pay respects to the traditional owners of this land. But who are they, and where are they today? Starting from the Scout Hall, I went on a journey to look for signs of First Nations people. I didn't have to go far. This bronze replica of a bark canoe overlooks the Brisbane River, or Maiwa, as Yagara call it. This was built to acknowledge the Yagara's people of Oxley Creek. Maiwa is also the name of the electoral district just across the other side of the river over there at Indooroopilly. That side of the river is Turrbal land, and that's where I live. I have adopted the name Kuta as my scout name. It's a traditional name for native stingless bees. While there aren't many First Nations people in this suburb, some aspects of Yagara language are still in daily use. Like the rest of Australia, Graceville was a site of invasion and colonisation. Reports from early settlers indicate there were hundreds of Yagara people living in this area, but by the 1840s, their numbers had dwindled due to disease, alcohol and opium abuse, and the loss of food resources due to land being cleared for farming. In 1897, remaining Yagara people were dispossessed from their land by being sent to long-distance reserves. By 1928, only 6 First Nations people were known to live in the area, and it's continued that way ever since. In the 2019 census, only 18 people identified as being Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander in Graceville. That represents just 0.4% of the population, a lot lower than the 3.3% of the general population. Today, as I drive around the suburb of Graceville, I can see that many First Nations people have little chance of owning a home here. It's too expensive. Median family and household incomes in Graceville are around 1.7 times higher than the national average, whereas 2016 Australian Institute of Health and Welfare data places the average First Nations family income at 33% lower than the national average. This is the land of white Anglo-Saxon heritage double-income families, whereas many First Nations people rely on government payments as their main source of income and live in poverty. As an ancestor of colonists, I feel helpless to know what to do about these facts. I do some small things. Sometimes they feel like tokens and never enough. Benarawar Community Centre here in Graceville works in a spirit of solidarity to help bridge the gap between elders and the wider community. I visited a yarning circle before, and although I felt welcome, I feel uncomfortable because I'm acutely aware of my white privilege in that setting, and that brings up feelings of guilt. I know that my discomfort at being privileged white woman in a circle with elders is nothing compared to the pain that many of them have felt. Some are part of the stolen generation. As I cross Maiwa back into Turrbal country, I reflect on how best to be an ally. I feel connection to land too. I'd like to try to influence policy regarding Scouts bushwalking on sacred sites, but my initial attempts to do so have been met so far with some resistance. Progress feels so slow. I hope we can find common ground.